The night she left, it felt like someone had reached into my chest and turned off the lights. There was no warning storm, no slammed doors, no dramatic scene. Just a quiet sentence over coffee that tasted like ash. She said she needed something more, something I apparently couldn't give. Then she stood up, adjusted the sleeve of her coat like she was brushing off dust, and walked out of my apartment and out of my life. I remember standing there long after the door closed, staring at the dent her suitcase wheels had left in the carpet. 3 years reduced to a line in fabric. And then the doorbell rang. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that life can surprise you when you least expect it, take a moment right now to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that endings are not always what they seem. When I opened the door, I expected her to be there, crying, apologizing, saying she'd made a mistake. Instead, her mother stood on my doorstep. She looked different than usual. Not the polished woman who hosted elegant dinners and corrected my grammar with polite smiles. Tonight she looked smaller, as if worry had shrunk her. Her eyes were red, and her hands trembled around the strap of her purse. Before I could speak, she stepped inside without waiting for permission. What she said next rearranged my entire future. She told me her daughter had made a terrible mistake. She said she knew I was a good man. She said I deserved better. And then, with a firmness that startled me, she added that if her daughter was foolish enough to walk away, she would not let me disappear from their lives so easily. She needed me. Her family needed me. I was not to walk away. I didn't understand what she meant at first. My heart was still busy breaking. I had always tried to be enough ambition, enough patience, enough stability. I worked long hours at a small architecture firm, saving for a house I thought we would buy together. I skipped nights out with friends so I could plan small surprises for her. I listened when she cried about her job, her friends, her insecurities. I thought love was about steady presence, about being a safe harbor. But apparently, she wanted fireworks. Her mother sat on my couch looking around at the framed photos still on the wall. One of them was from a beach trip last summer. We were sunburned and laughing. It felt like a different lifetime. She told me her daughter had been offered a job abroad, a glamorous opportunity in a city filled with flashing lights and endless parties. She hadn't told me because she knew I would ask practical questions about visas, stability, long-term plans. She didn't want practical, she wanted escape, and she didn't want me slowing her down. The words hurt, but what hurt more was the realization that maybe I had never truly known her. Maybe I had loved the version she presented to me, not the one that existed beneath. Her mother surprised me again that night. Instead of defending her daughter, she apologized to me. She said she had watched me over the years, watched the way I carried groceries without being asked, the way I fixed her kitchen sink without charging a cent, the way I showed up for family dinners even after exhausting workdays. She said good men were rare, and she would not pretend otherwise. Then her voice cracked. She told me she had just been diagnosed with a serious heart condition. Suddenly the room felt smaller. Her daughter had left for another country that morning. The glamorous job had demanded immediate relocation. No time for goodbyes, no time for loose ends. Her mother had not even known until after the plane took off. She was alone, and she had come to me. I didn't know whether to feel honored or manipulated. My heart was raw, and now someone was placing another fragile thing into my hands. But I saw the fear in her eyes. It wasn't pride that had brought her to my door. It was desperation. In the weeks that followed, my heartbreak took a back seat to hospital appointments and medication schedules. I drove her to cardiology consultations. I learned how to read prescription labels. I sat in waiting rooms that smelled like antiseptic and old magazines. It was strange. The woman who had once subtly judged me now leaned on my arm as we crossed busy streets. Sometimes at night, when I returned to my empty apartment, the silence roared. I would stare at my phone, half expecting a message from the girl who had left. But none came. Instead, there were texts from her mother asking if I had eaten dinner, reminding me to rest, thanking me for the ride earlier. Healing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it happens quietly while you're helping someone else survive. Months passed. I stopped checking my ex's social media. I stopped replaying our last conversation in my head. Instead, my days filled with small acts of service, grocery runs, light repairs, sitting on her couch while she told me stories about her youth, about how she had once wanted to be a painter before responsibilities swallowed her dreams. One evening, after a particularly exhausting hospital visit, she handed me an old photo album. It was filled with pictures of her daughter as a child. Missing teeth, messy ponytails, scraped knees. I saw innocence there. Vulnerability I had never witnessed in our adult relationship. She used to be afraid of thunderstorms, her mother said softly. She'd crawl into my bed and ask if the sky was angry. It struck me then that people don't wake up one day and become careless. They grow into it, shaped by fears, ambitions, disappointments. I began to understand that her leaving had less to do with my shortcomings and more to do with her restlessness. And slowly something unexpected began to grow between her mother and me. Not romance, not anything inappropriate, but a deep, mutual respect. A chosen family born from shared loss. She started calling me her son in casual conversation. At first it made me uncomfortable. Then it made me proud. When winter came, her condition worsened. There were nights I slept in the hospital chair beside her bed, listening to the steady beep of machines. I realized how fragile life was, how quickly the people we love can vanish. One night she squeezed my hand and told me she had made changes to her will. I protested, but she silenced me with a look. She said I had given her more comfort in 6 months than some people give in a lifetime. She said I had shown her what character truly meant. I didn't want her money, I wanted her healthy. Around that time, a message finally arrived from the one who had left. It was short, almost casual. She said the city was exciting but overwhelming. She asked how I was. She said she missed us. I stared at the screen for a long time. The old me would have responded immediately, heart racing, ready to forgive. But I was not the same man anymore. Pain had carved something stronger into me. I realized I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of being chosen. I replied politely, wishing her well, telling her I hoped she found what she was searching for. And that was it. Closure doesn't always arrive with dramatic apologies. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet confidence of knowing you deserve steadiness. Spring arrived with warmer air and cautious optimism. Her mother's health stabilized after surgery. She moved more slowly now, but she smiled more often. We celebrated small victories, improved test results, short walks in the park, a day without dizziness. One afternoon, as we sat on a bench watching children play, she turned to me and said something that settled deep in my soul. She told me that love is not measured by intensity but by consistency. Fireworks fade, she said. What remains is the person who stays when the sky is dark. In that moment, I felt something inside me heal completely. I began volunteering at the hospital on weekends, inspired by the nurses who had cared for her with such compassion. I started mentoring a younger colleague at work. My world expanded beyond one relationship, beyond one heartbreak. Life felt fuller, not because the pain hadn't existed, but because I had grown through it. If this story is touching your heart right now, if you've ever felt abandoned or not enough, please take a second to like the video, leave a comment sharing your experience, and share it with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not defined by who walks away. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. And before we reach the end, I have a special request. Comment below the word "stay" if you believe the people who remain during hard times are the real blessings in life. A year after that night when my world fell apart, I stood in a small garden behind her mother's house. She had insisted on planting roses despite her health. She said beauty was an act of defiance. She handed me a small wooden box. Inside were letters. Some were written to her daughter but never sent. Others were addressed to me. She told me that regardless of what happened in the future, whether her daughter returned, whether I found someone new, I had proven something to myself. I was not defined by rejection. I was defined by resilience. She thanked me for staying. That word echoed in my chest. Not for romance, not for obligation, but for humanity. Her daughter never came back permanently. There were occasional calls, occasional visits filled with awkward politeness. I wished her well each time. There was no bitterness left, only distance. As for me, I eventually met someone new. Not through dramatic sparks, but through quiet conversation at the hospital volunteer desk. She noticed how I spoke gently to elderly patients. I noticed how she stayed late to help a confused man find his room. We built something slowly, brick by brick, on a foundation of mutual respect. But that is another story. This story is about the night I thought I lost everything. It turns out I had only lost what was not meant to stay. In losing her, I gained clarity. I gained a chosen family. I gained the understanding that love is less about possession and more about presence. Sometimes the person who rings your doorbell after a heartbreak is not there to complicate your life, but to redirect it. The night my girlfriend dumped me felt like the end. Instead, it was the beginning of becoming the man I was always meant to be. And if this journey moved you even a little, if it reminded you that kindness is never wasted, and that staying power matters more than fleeting passion, please engage with this video. Like it, share it, subscribe, and tell us your thoughts below. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps build a community that believes in second chances and steady love. Because in a world obsessed with leaving, the bravest thing you can do is stay.